There's a notification.
Yep. So just let me know when you got those all good to go.
Okay. I had this problem today when I was posting on Facebook. Like, something takes over and the send button just disappears. Or the post button. Okay, there's that. All right, we ready?
Yep.
Alrighty.
My volume's still okay, Jordan? I'm just worried it's too loud.
Sounds good.
Okay.
What's going on, folks? All right, we're about to roll live with Chris Jobman from Flatlander Kennels. So here we go. What's going on, folks? I am Jordan from Ducks Gun Chronicles. Got my co-host Graybeard, Freelance duck hunting alongside me, and our guest for tonight is Chris Jobman, the owner, operator, and head trainer over at Flatland Kennels. How you doing tonight, Chris?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Doing great. And, I've heard a lot from Elliot about you, his trip out there, and picking up Georgie, and, he's super pumped about that. So definitely cool to have you on here and talk some dog training with you. So to kind of get this kicked off, go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Chris Jobman. I'm the owner operator of Flatlander Kennels. I started this adventure 19 years ago, and it started out as I just wanted a really good gun dog, hunting dog, and it's evolved into what we think is one of the finer retriever training facilities in the country. I know there's other great ones out there too, but I think we rank right up there with the rest of them. Pretty proud of what I built. I didn't work for another trainer or anything like that. Everything I've learned is trial and error, obviously way back when, and now we run a lot of hunt tests. We run the AKC hunt tests. We run the HRC hunt tests. We run some field trials, small stake field trials, and we also train a lot of gun dogs. And we got a pretty good staff here. We train when we're rocking and rolling. We got 70 plus dogs in training. A staff of about anywhere from 6 to 8 people, and we travel all over the country running hunt tests and doing field trials and also building gun dogs. And it's just kind of evolved into the monster that it is today out here. I've trained probably 200 plus master hunters, 250 HRCHs. I've trained 36 Grand Hunter Retriever champions, which we believe is the third most in HRC history. And it's just kind of evolved and blew up into this thing what we like to call as Team FLK, because everybody, all of our people here, all of our staff, our clients, our friends, everybody that's involved with us, we consider Team FLK, and that's a pretty good brand across the country right now. You say Team FLK, a lot of people know who that is. So we do a lot of stuff on Facebook. stuff like that. I personally don't. I'm not much of a tech guy. Obviously, it took us a half an hour to get me on here, but one of the guys that works for me, Eric, is really good at that, and he does all of our Facebook posts for us. But it basically, I just wanted a really nice hunting dog, and I bought my first hunting dog in 1991 out of the newspaper. It was a English Springer Spaniel named Spencer for $400, and I thought I was crazy for paying that much. And I ran Springer Spaniels as an amateur almost all of the 90s. I ran hunt tests with them. I ran some field trials with them. I was a big pheasant hunter back then. I live out here in western Nebraska where we have a lot of pheasants, and I did a lot of pheasant hunting with them. And I got my first retriever. It was my mom's dog, a golden retriever by the name of Bridget. And she's like, "You want to train my golden retriever?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do that." So I started playing with her in the retriever game, and it just kind of blew up. I went to hunt tests and I started passing her, and then somebody like, "Hey, would you take my dog?" I'm like, "Sure." I'll try to train her. And then I trained that dog, and it did good. Then next thing you know, I've got 5, and then I got 10, and then I got 15, and 19 years later, you got 75. So it's just kind of snowballed and blew up, which is, we're very proud of what we built out here for sure.
So you didn't have any mentor. You basically just kind
No,
of learned on the job.
zero mentorship.
You know,
It was a crazy thing too, because when I'm kind of one of them guys that's all or nothing, and it's sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. And when I got into this deal, I could not soak up enough information.
mhm.
I read every book and watched every video, and I would go to a hunt test or a field trial back when I had my springers just to meet the top trainers in the country and to hang out and pick their brain and talk to them. And I had no intentions at that point in my life of being a professional dog trainer. I would have liked to have, but I had no intentions of. People really make money doing this, playing with ducks and dogs all day long. Come on, And so I just kind of clicked. I grew up with horses, running 4-H, and some people are just good with animals, and some people aren't. And for some reason, I actually kind of associate better with animals than people, and most people will tell you that. but and it just kind of worked out. And I read every book, and I tried this and I tried that, and hey, this doesn't work, and this works pretty good. And then I just got better at it and got to be like a real student of the game. And now we have our own program. I got literature. I do seminars. All these things. I fly all over. I've flown all over the country giving seminars, and we're pretty modern in our techniques. Obviously now, I think we're ahead of the scale on some stuff, and it's I never had a mentor, and so when I talk to people at my seminars or clients, hey, no, this is a better way to do it, and the reason why I can say that is because I did the other way, and because I never had somebody say this is the only way to do it. I've tried everything, and our program that we have now, I truly believe is really good for us and works great for us, is because I've tried everything, and some stuff works really good and some stuff doesn't.
We've had multiple trainers on here. We've just had the privilege of talking to a lot of different guys, and hearing you talk, it just kind of dawned on me that I always thought that anyone basically with enough knowledge could be a really excellent trainer. But hearing all you guys talk, it seems like maybe that there's something in that's just built into you guys that are at the professional level. It's more than the knowledge. Like you said, you relate better to animals than you do people. What is your thought on maybe part of being an excellent trainer comes from the core of who you are as much as the information you're reading?
Well, the thing about dog training is you can read it in a book, you can watch a video, and you can do all those things. But if you can't read between the lines and read the subtle, because an animal, whether it be a horse or a dog or anything, probably not a cat, because cats could care less about people, but you know what I'm talking about. They are speaking to you and communicating with you every ounce of their life. And now they can't talk to you, but if you ever want to watch dogs or anything like that in a kennel environment, which is as close to a wolf pack as you're ever going to get, as far like when they're in the airing yards, all together, 8 or 9 dogs together,
Yeah.
you can see them communicate. And if you watch that, you'll learn that. And some people can see and really read in between the lines and read the nuances of an animal, and some people just can't. I can't. I am terrible at math. I am horrible. It doesn't. How can A plus B equal C D? It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any sense to me. And that's how some people are with animals. They can read it, and they're like, well, this dog is supposed to be doing this. Well, that's what the book says. Well, the book is just a guideline, and you have to be able to pull the choke and pump the gas, and understand how to make that animal work.
So that's
Oh,
the main difference, is reading the body language and understanding what they're communicating to you.
yes,
And that's
yes.
what separates the non-trainers from the novice trainers from the professional trainers, that
Yeah,
ability.
well, the good trainers. I
Yeah.
know a lot of amateurs that are very, very good dog trainers, and they could be professionals if they wanted to be. But you know what? This life isn't for everybody, and I get it. And but that separates the good from the bad. I know a lot of professional dog trainers that shouldn't be training at all either. And the thing about it is you have to train the individual dog. Not every dog is going to be the greatest dog in the history of the world, and you can't make them that, but you got to make them the best that dog can possibly be. So you have to read what each individual dog is telling you and adjust your technique or how you try to teach the dog to make that dog better. Now they can go through the same program. You just might have to, speak to them in a little bit different language, so to speak.
So, so question on something you kind of mentioned earlier on there. I think the way you said it is you got dogs that do the HRC tests, a couple other tests, the hunt test, and gun dogs. So I guess what is the big difference? Because I guess with all the testing, I guess I never really thought of it as those dogs being different. But I guess what are the differences there?
Well, and I always tell people this. This is the funniest thing ever. Is when people call me, the first thing out of their mouth is, "I don't want a field trial dog." Well, it's the same steps. They're the same dogs. They're just trained to a little higher level. And I don't want a field trial dog. Well, it's the same steps. But when they come to the kennel and they watch their gun dog that they got out of the newspaper at Walmart or wherever they found it, and the dog is a very average dog, very average to below average dog, and which is fine if that's what they want. That's totally fine. I get that. But then they see the big dogs run and they're like, I want one of those. Which, Elliot, you just bought one of those.
I'm excited about that too.
And they want one of those. Well, you don't own one of those. They're like, how do I get one of those? And so then we can start the process all over again. But and I always tell people is it's no different. All my test dogs that we have here, every one of them hunt, and they are literally the finest hunting dogs you've ever seen. They'll mark all the birds you shoot, but if you cripple a bird and it sails off and dies 300 yards away, as long as you can see that dog and that dog can hear and see you, you can put that dog on that bird, and you don't have to walk 300 yards through the muck to get it, because you can run a blind retrieve to do it. And I always tell people, not every hunting dog can be a good hunt test dog, but every hunt test dog can be a great hunting dog. See what
Yeah,
I'm
that
saying?
definitely makes sense.
It,
Yeah.
it does, and they're just held to a little higher standard. But even our dogs that we have here is they're all hunting dogs. I mean, every single one of them are, and they go hunting. But they're very, very good. And I can put them on any bird I want. And I can put them in the beauty of a really good hunt test dog is you can put them in any hunting situation in North America or the world, and they're going to excel because you have so much control on them. You can get them to do whatever you want them to do.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's definitely really cool to see dogs work like that, for sure. So, do you have something else you want to add, Elliot, before I move on to the next thing on that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, kind of talking about your past there a little bit. You said you got into 4-H and working with the horses, and that was kind of your introduction to working with animals. But at what part of your life did you start hunting?
6 years old. It's literally
And
6 years old.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and let's hear a little bit about your hunting background.
My first hunting experience. Well, my first experience shooting a gun. You're gonna love this. You guys remember the old bolt action 12 gauges? You used to buy it like Montgomery Ward's. You guys might be old enough yet. My dad had and it had one of those chokes on the end of on the gun barrel that you could adjust the choke. Well, I wanted to shoot a gun. He's like, you want to shoot a gun? I'm like, I want to shoot that gun. He's like, you think you're big enough? I was like, I can shoot that gun. I'm 6 or 7 years old, guys. He hands me a 12 gauge bolt action from Montgomery Ward, and I shot that thing and ended on my back. I ain't kidding you, crying and the whole deal. And I'm like, well, that was pretty fun. And from then on, I literally, I just, so we lived in a little town in southwest Nebraska named Curtis, Nebraska. And it is, as a kid, it is like the gold mine of kids. Because you live there, they have everything. The only thing they don't have is they don't have very good waterfowl hunting. But you can shoot ducks, geese, deer, turkeys, not ducks, geese, but pheasants and quail, and you can shoot everything. Well, we moved there, and I was a nut about it. I mean, I would go out by myself. You know, I'm 8, 9 years old doing this by myself. So my dad, we'd all be in jail at this day and age. But man, I'm gonna tell you, my dad bought me. I was in 4-H, and I would sell, pigs and stuff. And so I had some money when I was a little kid. And so I bought myself a Yamaha 125 Enduro, and I put on the handlebars a gun rack. And I literally would take a 20 gauge Remington 870 20 gauge. It didn't even have the rib on it. It was just a straight barrel 20 gauge. That and a 22 on my handlebars in a gun rack. Put my hunting clothes on, my vest on, get on my motorcycle, and I'd leave all day.
That's
all
crazy.
Day.
What age was this again?
8 or 9. I'm not exaggerating, guys. And I did that for till I could drive.
That's
and
awesome.
And when I lived in the country, you could drive to school when you're 14 years old. That's when I started driving to school. Well, I did my little 25 Enduro till I was 14 years old, and I would literally leave 8 or 9 years old. I'd be gone all day, and all my neighbors knew me. And back then there was no cell phones, so my mom would call my neighbors and say, "Hey, have you seen Chris?" "Yep, he just went by about 15 minutes ago. He's probably over at the Messersmiths." And I'd be over there, and I would sit down, and I would have lunch with the ranch hands. And I say, "Hey, can I go shoot pheasants?" He's like, "Yeah, go out in the back. I saw it." And I'd go back there and shoot for pheasants. And then I would go and I see some quail, and I'd go shoot. I had permission to go everywhere, and everybody knew who I was in about a 20-mile radius. And I'd come home, and I'm not even going to tell you how many pheasants and quail and rabbits I had, because I didn't know there was limits on this stuff. I had no idea there was limits. And my dad's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It was a great day today. I'll be back. I got to go clean this stuff." And I had no idea there was limits back then. And
this is like something from a movie or something.
I'm telling you, this is 100% a true story.
That's crazy.
It is unbelievable. I'll never forget this as long as I live. My dad used to drive an oil truck for Marathon Oil, and I used to ride with him, and this was illegal obviously, but he'd take me with him, and I would take my 20 gauge with us, and he would get oil from the oil wells, and I would, during pheasant season, I would walk all the canyons looking for pheasants and quail, and I had a heck of a time killing anything because I'm left eye dominant, but now I shoot left-handed now, but for 5 or 6 years, I shot right-handed. I couldn't hit a damn thing. And and he's getting oil one day, and I'm probably a mile from his truck, I suppose, just walking around by myself. And I finally shoot my first pheasant by myself, finally. And I was so pumped. I shot that thing. I dropped my gun. I grabbed that pheasant, and I ran as fast as I could back to the truck to show my dad. And then he's
awesome.
like, "Where's your gun?" I'm like, "Oh shit!" So I had to run all the way back, find my gun in the weeds, get my gun. It was a nightmare. And then, but I honestly, that's how I grew up. I grew up with then when I outgrew the motorcycle, I was probably 12 or 13. I had a little Suzuki Samurai, and it was a 3-cylinder Suzuki Samurai, top speed 45 miles an hour, and you felt like you were flying in that thing. And then I would drive around all winter in that thing, and I had trap line. In the summer, I had set lines in the creek, and I mean, I was outdoors river rat, And I did all the same things, played the football, I did all that stuff too, but outdoors is honestly is been something that's been in my blood forever. And I'd get my dad up, hey, let's go hunting. He's like, I don't want to go. I'm like, come on, let's go. I'm like, it's free, it's 20 below. I'm like, it's gonna be a great day. And I'd get on and get in that damn Suzuki Samurai and take off. And that's honestly how I grew up. I honestly grew up just like that.
What a great way to grow up. It couldn't be any better than that.
It can't be, but you can't do that nowadays.
Yeah.
But I'm
No.
telling you, I just drove all over the place shooting stuff. I did hunter safety. I did all the things, but I grew up around guns. I mean, I'm 6, 7, 8 years old. We respected firearms and we respected nature and we understood it. We had farm animals. We had chickens and geese and horses and pigs and cows. I mean, it was just a way of life for us. You know what I mean? And I would come home and make my mom cook all this stuff. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're having rabbits tonight. I shot 3 rabbits today. She's like, what do I do with the rabbits? Like, I don't know. Back then there was no internet. You couldn't Google rabbit recipes, But that's how I grew up with no dog. I just wandered around the countryside shooting stuff.
I'd say that's the best hunting background story that I've heard since
Yeah.
I've been doing this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a true story. I'm gonna tell you what. I had an unbelievable childhood for the outdoors. My parents trusted me, and gave me the reins to explore and kind of just be a man.
Yeah.
An outdoors guy, and the trials and tribulations of being outdoors. And I wasn't babied. I can promise you that. Oh man.
Now that you are all into training, because I mean, I've been in contact with you, and I can tell how busy you are. It's just unbelievable. Do you feel like you still have enough time to kind of go out and still do those, or those other things you did growing up, as far as the lines and all the different kind of hunting, or do you just so into dogs you love that?
Well, it's what I used to be, and I don't get to do everything I want to do, obviously, because this is a unbelievably busy profession, especially if you're at the level and the scale that we are and a lot of other trainers are in the country. But what I mostly focus on now is I shoot waterfowl, and I'm a big duck guy. I could care less about a Canadian goose. We have where we live right out here on the North Platte River is some of the best waterfowl hunting in the country or in the world. And I own a little guiding outfit called Duck Haven Outfitters, and I don't really guide much, but I have guides that guide, and we take people hunting, and we really enjoy teaching people and showing people their first experiences and show them kind of how we live. But I basically shoot ducks, and I'm a small gauge guy. I shoot a 20 gauge at the most. I shoot 28 gauge most of the time. And so now to me, I've grabbed, it's funny that you ask all that, because when I was a kid, I could not wait to shoot a 12 gauge. I'm like, I'm getting a 12 gauge. I bought my first 12 gauge. It was a Remington 1187. I'll never forget it. And I couldn't wait to shoot a 12 gauge. Now, I can't tell you the last time I shot a 12 gauge was. And I won't even shoot one. If I have to shoot a duck with a 12 gauge, I'm not going. I like to get them in close, and because I've shot a lot of stuff. So the kill to me isn't about it. And I've taught my kids this, and my wife, and the people who work for me, and it's about the show. And if you shoot everything at 40 and 50 yards, you never get to see the show.
Yeah.
And to me, it's about, because I've killed a lot. I mean, I've killed a lot of things. But what I miss is I don't get to deer hunt anymore. I haven't shot a deer in, I can't tell. I've shot a lot of deer, nice deer on the wall, and I was a big muzzleloader guy because that was more sporting. So that's what I did, was a muzzleloader. And I don't turkey hunt anymore, which I wish I kind of did a little bit. I used to walleye fish a little bit, but my dog life has overtaken every other aspect of my life. I mean, I was a 0 handicap golfer for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
I'm still probably a 2 or 3, but I don't get to do it. I don't get to do it. So my dog life is overtaking turkey hunting, because that's right in the middle of one of our busiest times of the year. And deer hunting starts in the middle of September, and then I'm at the Grand and the Master National, and walleye fishing out of the question, or any kind of fishing at all, because I'm in the summer times we're working. So literally, the only thing I really get to do is in the wintertime, I shoot ducks and geese because I live right here. I mean, we shoot 200 or 300 ducks on my property that I own right here where we train before it freezes, and so basically that's what I focus on is that because it's overtaken everything else for sure.
Well, that's one of the things I noticed when I came up there, just how beautiful your property was. I didn't know what to expect, and just the surroundings. And I don't know what those structures. I know we talked about it. What are those rock structures they call out there?
Well, we
Like,
if you're any kind of historian at all, there is the Mormon Trail and the Oregon Trail, and the Mormon Trail was on the north side of the river. Oregon Trail was on the south side of the river, and there's still places in these pastures that you can see wagon trail ruts still. You can still see them, and we live literally at the base of Chimney Rock, which is a nationally known historical monument on the Oregon Trail. It's a big deal to people that are into that sort of thing. And we live right by it. It's only a
yeah,
few miles away.
like you can
And
see it right from your property.
I'm looking at it right now
Yeah,
from my kitchen window.
yeah.
And all the other big structures we have around us they all have names to them, Castle Rock and stuff like that. But they're called the Wildcat Hills,
Okay.
and they're actually really rugged. If you go up in there, there's 1,000-foot drop-offs, and they're bigger than you think they are. And there's, the beauty of that is there's some of the largest elk in the country live up there, and bighorn sheep. I mean, there was a little girl last year. I think she was 13 years old. Shot a 416-inch elk.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now where do you go from there? You know. So,
Well, thing
but
about that's so amazing is it's a soft land.
yeah,
It's farm and grasses and the Platte
yeah.
River, and then out of nowhere you have these rock structures, which
It comes
really
straight
makes an
up.
unusual diversity
It's
to it.
it's incredible, and it's in and not all of Nebraska is like this. If people were to drive across Nebraska, they go across I-80 and they're like, "This is the most boring state I've ever seen in my entire life." You got to get off of it. And when you get, but western Nebraska, where I live, we're 3 hours north of Denver, 100 miles from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and no other place in Nebraska looks like western Nebraska. And we're two hours from Black Hills. It's a very unique part of Nebraska for sure.
Well, now that I've got the connection of you, I'm hoping that I can get out there sometime and get on some duck hunting at some point.
Well,
'Cause,
come
man,
on.
I was impressed with that area. I can tell you that. So I want to talk about Georgie now, Jordan. Is that all right? I've been waiting and waiting.
Make him wait. Make him wait.
Yeah, I was thinking we could put that at the very end of the podcast. It's just like, I mean, if we have time, we can talk about your pup.
Hey, people that listen want to know. I'll tell you, Chris. You probably don't listen to the podcast that much. She has certainly been a topic of conversation
Well, good.
on the podcast. This little dog has taken the
even
whole house by storm.
even before she was a topic, because Elliot was hemming and hawing about getting a pup because his last dog, Izzy, or his current dog, Izzy, getting up there in age. What was it I said, Elliot?
Well, let me give some context. It was about February, and I was worn out after the season, and I was thinking about trying to get a dog in February, and I was like, I didn't feel emotionally ready for it, and I didn't want to get a dog until I was totally ready. So, and Izzy wasn't hunting cold weather because she's old, and for a few hunts, I was just kind of enjoying the peacefulness of not worrying about a dog, even though Izzy's a very easy dog to hunt with, and so
You know what?
Jordan was really
I don't want to
giving me a
interrupt
hard
you.
time.
I don't. But that, you know what? It's funny that you say that. My best times hunting are when I don't even take a dog. Because I sit
Yeah.
in the blind with my wife or my kids or my friends, and I let everybody else run their dogs because I get to do it every day, all day long. So I get to sit in there and we make breakfast in our blind. We have skillets and the whole deal, and I make breakfast for everybody and call the shot, and sometimes I shoot, sometimes I don't, and it's just fun watching it. And I don't have to even run a dog, but I
Yeah.
enjoy watching them do their thing, and it's
Yeah.
very peaceful, not actually worrying about one.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying, and
Yeah.
Jordan just wouldn't let me hear the end of it.
Yeah, well,
How
because I know
hated
what you'd be
dogs.
saying until season this next year or something when you're out there running around chasing cripples.
Well, so by the time that I came up there to Flatlander Kennels, well, I was totally ready to go and excited. And man, this little dog has just taken the whole house by storm. And my wife is totally not a dog person at all. She's probably petted Izzy 3 or 4, like maybe once a year, she touches her. And now little Georgie's here, and she's like baby talking her and cuddling her arms. And this dog has won my wife over. So I thank you very much for that, Chris. I would all to your little pup
Good, good.
for
She's
that.
a nice. I'm gonna tell you that little breeding she came out of is. We still have a few of them left, to be honest with you, which is crazy to me. But we're doing all kinds of. If you follow our Facebook page, you can see some of the stuff we're doing with our puppies, and we're doing place and treat training and teach them to sit and jump up on boxes and stuff. I'll tell you what, that litter she came out of is unbelievable right now. I mean,
Yeah, I
they're retrieving full-grown mallards at 50 or 60 yards in the water. It's
yeah, that's what
nuts.
you told me, and I was like, boy, it's you can tell who's the pro and who's the amateur, because.
Yeah,
But I will say that I'm very, very happy with where Georgie is,
good.
and one of the things I wanted to have on here, I know that you have watched a couple of the little Georgie vlog videos that I've put out, and I was hoping that you could just after look. I know there wasn't a whole lot of information on there, but any little thing that you've noticed or thought. And let me tell you right now, kind of what my goals are currently with her. So right now, I've just started with place with her,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done. She does fine on a stake. She's spent a lot of time on that. I've got her on a lead, and she does fine with that. But I'm not healing or anything. I just want walking around with her on the lead a little bit. I've started sit with her, and now I'm to the point where I've moved her to real bumpers, and I'm extending the bumper. So she's probably doing 20, 25 yards at this point, and she's bringing it all the way back most of the time.
Yep.
I've got a check cord on her. So about, I'd say I go out and I do 4 or 5 retrieves in a session with her. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is I just don't want to overdo it with her. I would like to. So if I'm wrong on that, tell me. But about
No,
once out of
that's
five,
perfect.
okay.
Well, and the thing about, and she might be able to do more than that. The biggest thing, there is no set number on that. The biggest thing is you want to quit while they're still wanting to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main. That's the biggest thing. You got to stop when they're. Don't get them to the point where they think it's a job.
Yeah.
You know, and you might be able to throw 10 or 15. I
Okay.
don't know. It just
Yeah.
all depends on her.
Well, she's got a lot of drive. I'm just
Oh
trying to be
yeah,
real sensitive to that.
yeah.
And about 1 out of 5, she's kind of veering off for me. But I've got her on that check cord, so I just step on it, give her a little tug, say here, and she comes right over.
Yeah, yeah, and
But
that's the biggest, and that's a great, and another thing I was going to show you, I watched that the other night, is when you throw that bumper, why don't you hold on to that check cord
okay.
instead of just letting it, because like the end of it, how long is that thing?
Oh, 10, 15 feet maybe. Maybe it's longer
Okay,
than that. It's not super. It's
I
not.
thought it
It's
was longer than that
maybe it
when
is. Maybe it
I
is.
saw, but like go get like 100 footer.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna get wrapped up in it, and she's gonna burn your ankles with a rope. And when that happens, I want a picture. Basically, the greatest thing ever. It's gonna happen. But go get like 100 footer, and it doesn't have to be very thick. Just like 100 footer, and get some leather gloves, and put it in your hand. And then so when you throw it out there, let her just run with it, and let that check cord go through your hand.
Okay.
And then when she grabs it and starts coming back, you start reeling her in. Then instead of letting her go by you and stepping on it and like, bleh, choking her down, you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? But just start reeling it in, and then you can kind of almost like a fish, you can kind of almost reel her back to you instead of letting her run by you all the time.
Okay.
So she
Okay.
gets used to coming straight back to you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But
I'll
it's going to be
definitely
a
do that.
cluster. It's going to be wrapped around you, the trees, the kids, your wife. I mean, it's just that's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I will certainly do that. Anything else from the videos you've seen that you're like, oh, maybe do this or do that, or
No,
here's what I
I
saw you do
really
well.
like I really like your find it game
Mm-hmm.
in your house. But I would instead, and that's a command that you give your dogs to look for a bird that's dead, that's
It
down, that
is.
you can't
That's what I've
find it.
traditionally done. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We say hunt them up if they can't. We say hunt them up, but find
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing. The biggest thing is you've got to be careful of, and I know this is going to sound crazy to you, but and most people are like this is the number one attribute to a retriever is what do you think that is? Like their number one thing that they're going to use to find a bird.
I think
Everybody's
you're probably going to say nose, although my
it,
dog has been eyes.
it's not. It's not the nose. It's the eyes.
Okay.
And if you and I love how you're doing that. You just got to be a little bit careful Because the thing about a retriever is they've got to see the bird for one, watch the bird fall, go to where their eyes are telling them to go, and then use their nose to find it. If you and a lot of people don't understand this, but if let's just say you have a pheasant hunting dog, and it's a Labrador, and you take a duck hunt, and all it does is it hunts for pheasants, and it goes wherever his nose is telling him to go, and so when you shoot a duck, and let's just say you've got to go through 30 yards of cattails to get to it, those dogs that pheasant hunt a lot are going to struggle getting to that bird because they're going to smell a feather here, a feather there, and they're just going to start quartering through that cover to get to that bird. And they'll go wherever their nose ends up going. And hell, there might be older birds in there. There might be birds roosted in there one night. There might be a coot in there, and they're chasing that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they've got to watch the bird fall, go to that area where that bird fell, and then use their nose to find it. If that makes
So
sense.
with the find it game with the wing, I have to be careful that I'm not training her too heavy on her nose.
Yes, and that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm trying to tell you.
with what I've been doing out there, should I just do it less often? Should I hold off and not do it? How should I
No,
adjust?
keep doing what you're doing. I don't think you're overdoing that.
Okay.
What I do, I love the way that instills prey drive in her. Like
Yeah.
she's looking for a bird. I mean, she is looking. And what you're doing right now is completely fine, 100% completely fine. Now, when you start throwing marks for her, you'll start holding it, and maybe one of your kids or something will stand out in the field and throw your marks and show them to it, and then get in the area and look for
Yeah.
it, and then smell it and bring it back. But what you're doing is completely fine. I used to do that with my Springer Spaniels all the time. And when we dropped the pheasant, we couldn't find it. I said, hunt them up, dead bird, hunt them up, hunt them up. And they would just like Georgie does, and they would find that thing. I mean, it's crazy. But you just want to make sure you don't want to put too much emphasis on her nose at this point, so that when you do start running marks with her, and if you get to the point where you're going to run blind retrieves with her, she doesn't trust her nose more than her eyes.
Okay.
If that
Yeah, I
makes
think
sense.
I'm on track because I've been doing a lot more of just the retrieving with the dummies. I don't do the
Yeah.
wing every day.
Yeah,
And I do a lot more of my main goal right now is extending those retrieves and then place and a little bit of sit. Let me ask this question because with these YouTube videos, everyone that watches a YouTube video wants to give their 2 cents on what I'm doing wrong, and
Oh,
which is fine.
everybody.
I want people to comment,
Well,
but
everybody's a professional dog trainer when it comes to computers.
one of the number one things I get is I need to be steadying her now, and I need to be steadying her now. And what I thought I got from you and from talking with Freddie King is that no, don't do that now.
Do not do that now.
Okay.
Here's the biggest thing that we get one of two things here. We either get a person that puts their dog in a kennel and does absolutely nothing with it, because we usually get our dogs in training for when they're 6 or 7 months. But we'll take them obviously later in their life too, when we have a lot. But we get somebody that sticks their dog in a kennel for the first 6, 7, 8 months of their life, and we get them back, and we get them in training, and all of a sudden they're scared to death of the world. And I'm like, what is going on? What did you do with this dog that has never seen a bird, has no retrieving desire, scared of people, scared of sounds? He's like, we put it in a kennel and we didn't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, you're doing a really good job of ruining it, because this
Yeah.
dog is scared of the world. Or they are going to be a super trainer, and I'm going to teach it to sit, here, heel, down, all this stuff at 3 months old. That's just as bad. Because the thing about it is, and there's this old saying out there that we all use is you can't put it in them, but you can take it out of them. And a lot of people want to do making them sit and making them be steady at that age. You don't know what that dog is going to be like at a year or 2 years old. You really don't. She could be overly sensitive, and you don't even know it right now because everything's fun for her. She has no rules. And you start adding a bunch of rules to a dog that is, what are they, 12 weeks old now?
13.
They're 13 weeks. At that age, and she might be really sensitive, and you don't even know it. And you start making this a job, which with the sit stay is a job now. So she wants to go get it, and you don't let her go get it, and she gets in trouble for leaving. And then pretty soon she's like, this is no fun. This is no fun at all. I don't want to do this anymore. So you're better off, and I don't care who's telling you this. They can call me. They're wrong right now. So that's not the thing to be doing. If you're starting to put, what I think you're doing with Georgie right now is absolutely perfect. Because when I get a dog in, say Georgie was going to come in for training, I know she's not, but say she was, I would much rather have Georgie come in like she is right now than a dog that is an obedience champion that doesn't really, that has a very mediocre retrieving desire.
Yeah.
I want a dog that comes in the training that all they care about is retrieving. They know their name, maybe sit a little bit, and their kennel, and that's about it. I would much rather deal with a retrieving maniac than a dog that looks like a robot. Because I'm going to tell you, you don't know this at her age yet. You can really hurt her desire and drive if you start putting too much control on her.
That's great for confirmation on that because I was sure that that's what I had gotten from both you, and you sent myself and Jordan uses it too over to the retrievertrainer.com with Freddie
Yep.
King,
Yep.
and he's really accessible. And so from both you guys, it's really great when I get these comments on YouTube because it's a great comeback to say, well, I don't know, I've talked to Chris Jobman and Freddie King, and that's what they're telling me to do. So
Yeah,
the
well,
conversation over.
Yeah, the thing about it is, man, everybody, you get on the internet or Facebook, everybody's a professional dog trainer. And most of them don't even know which end of the dog to feed, let alone train one. But they're an expert, you know. But no, Freddie's a great guy. Freddie's a very good friend of mine. I like to contribute to his page as much as I can, and I've known Freddie a long back when I used to run the SRS, and Freddie was a cameraman. I've known him a long time.
Yeah, he seems like a great guy. We were supposed to have him on last week, but it fell through. So
Yeah.
we're having him on, I think, September 4th, so we can
good.
talk to him
Good.
at that time, too. Well, one more thing about Georgia, I'd just say that I can certainly vouch for your dogs because this is my third hunting dog. The first one was just $15 out of the paper. The second one was $350. And now just seeing the difference to a well-bred dog. And I tell people it's like, would you rather have professional athlete's child or just some high school basketball player, and to me, that's kind of the difference. But this little dog is so much, just everything about her is different in her drive, in her desire, in her attention. It almost seems. I mean, it's truly incredible.
Well, and that's exactly right. I mean, the cheapest part of owning a dog is buying it. I mean, holy smokes! I mean, why are you gonna, buy a cheap dog someplace? And I'm not saying they won't be a great dog; they will be. But her parents have had all their health testing and the whole 9 yards. So there's a lot that goes into a puppy at our level. We take, my wife takes big pride in this stuff, and she's doing a lot with them right now. And why would you spend $50, $100, $400 on a dog and then put years and countless hours in training that dog? Why not stack the deck? That's like going out and buying a custom rifle and putting a Bushnell from Walmart on it. Why would you do that? The biggest thing is buy. If we're talking puppy buying, buy usually the most expensive one you can find that has a great pedigree and has all the health testing by mom and dad, and go for it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of great breeders out there. Right now, the puppy market's flooded with puppies. Everybody thinks they're a breeder. And that stuff, I'll tell you, you got to be careful out there right now on some of that stuff. And you got to go through people who are reputable and know what they're talking about when it comes to that sort of thing. But the cheapest part about a dog is buying one, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, this little dog has a high desire, and when I put a wing in front of her, there was some switch that was flipped. I'll tell you, because she went nuts.
Oh man, and I tell you what, if you could get you a pigeon right now, like a clipped wing pigeon, pull the flight feathers out, you are gonna see a whole different animal.
Yeah, I need to do that.
That's
how about quail would be
ever.
okay, wouldn't it? Wouldn't a
Quail
be all
would
right?
be okay. The only problem with quail is they're really little, and their feathers come off really easy. And so that gets it like it's shooting a dove. How them feathers just fall off.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. If that's all you can get, that's better than nothing. A pigeon is absolutely perfect because pigeons are a heck of a lot tougher than quail. And the quail are really little, so a lot of times they'll start chomping on them, that sort of thing.
Gets gruesome.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. And the thing about it is and everybody's like, oh my God, it's got a hard mouth, it's chewing on it. Yeah, you don't want the dog chewing the bird up, that sort of thing. I get it, but you also want them to, really want that bird, and sometimes that's what it takes. Let them be a little bit rough with it, but you don't want it to be a habit. But let them. The biggest thing about making a gun dog, man, you got to have birds to do it. All right, you can't train a hunting dog with bumpers. It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, I'll have to get on that. I know
Yeah.
I got to figure out a place to get some pigeons or trap them or
Yeah.
something.
All right, so everyone's heard my story about Chief getting my first dog, doing everything wrong, and having to retrain him. But we want to hear about your first dog and how your training went with that.
My first dog, his name was, my first real hunting dog was named Spencer, a black and white English Springer Spaniel that I bought for $400 out of the newspaper in Sydney, Nebraska. That's where I basically grew up at, and when I graduated high school. And I'm gonna tell you, I was gonna make this dog into the next greatest thing you've ever seen. I bought every book and every video, and I bought the cheapest, and I thought $400. I'm thinking, man, this is the holy grail of dogs right here. Woo. And I'm a 19-year-old kid, and I buy this dog, and we actually, I honestly, I will say, I made that dog into a very, very, very nice gun dog. He did a good job for me, but he was, honestly, looking back at it, he was very common. I mean, he did what I wanted him to do. He would retrieve. He'd deliver to hand. He'd sit. We used to call it hup. It's HUP in the spaniel world. He'd hup when I wanted him to, sort of, and that sort of thing. And he was black and white. He was kind of mean. It was, and it was different. He hunted a lot of years with me for sure. But I'm gonna tell you, he took a backseat to the next one I bought. Because the next one I bought, I went out and bought a real deal, and he was a nice dog. He ended up being a great family dog. I retired him at about 6 years old because I had two other ones that were unbelievable, and I was tired of fighting with Spencer to get in the truck and then get out of the truck, and then he's just one of them dogs that it's a typical, cheap dog that you buy, and it's not what you think. But look, you think you got something back then. I really thought I had something. And I went to a field trial. I'll never forget it. So I have Spencer, and I'm a 19-year-old kid, and he's 6 months old. And I'm going to an English Springer Spaniel field trial. I'm going to watch some of the best trainers in the country in Colorado do this deal. And I went and watched, and I did the exact same thing my clients do. I'm like, I want one of those. And I'm looking at Spencer, and he's growling at me on the front seat. I'm like, yeah, you are not one of those, but you're going to be my gun dog for a little while. And I ended up getting quite a few of those after that. But yeah.
And I will say, if you guys want to see what Chris is talking about on Flatlander Kennels Facebook page, he does a lot of videos of working the dogs. And one of the funnest things that I was able to watch was Georgie's dad before I got her, Flash, and you had him on there.
Yeah.
And so if you guys want to see what he's talking about, go to that Flatlander Kennels Facebook page and check out those videos.
Yeah, we do a video. I started a video series years ago, and I call it Dog of the Day. And how it came about, and I need to do more of it, but I'm not a big Facebook guy or getting. I've been in the camera a lot when I'm with Avery and Bandit and all them guys and doing the Team Water Dog stuff. But I'm not big in getting into Facebook, but I need to do it more. But I just started a video series called Dog of the Day, and I was driving to Texas one February. Me and my wife are driving to Texas, and I'm sitting there thinking, I got all these sponsors. I got Avery and Purina, and back then it was Eukanuba at the time, and I had, Avery and Eukanuba and Sport Dog, and I have all these sponsors for the kennel. I'm like, I need to do something to kind of recognize these guys, and also put the clients' dogs out there so people can see them and they're proud of their dogs and that sort of thing. So I'm sitting there driving to Texas in February on our winter trip to go train. So I came up with this idea of the Dog of the Day. And so what I do is I pair it with like a sponsor. So today is like we did Flash, real good friend of mine. He's a breeder, Lincoln Creek Labs, who owns Flash, and he's a very good customer, great friend of mine. And I'm like, you know what? That's what we did. So on Flash's deal, it was Lincoln Creek Labs Dog of the Day, and then sometimes and then we used Flash as the dog. So we say his Flash's titles. We put that all on there, and then we run a setup in our training setup and explain the setup and explain what we're doing. And it's real time. I mean, when you see a dog not do it perfectly, they might get a correction, they might not, and they always don't do it perfectly. But that's it. When I started doing the Dog of the Day, that just exploded. And I'm going to tell you, it's the craziest thing. I can go all over the country, and it doesn't matter if I'm in South Carolina or California. one of the first things that people come up to me is like, "Hey, I watch you on Dog of the Day all the time." It's crazy how people love that thing, and it was an accident. It was honestly just an accident.
It
And
is fun to watch.
yeah, yeah, it is, and it takes a little time to get it done, but I need to start doing more of that. But that's one of the things we do on there. Our Facebook page, we try to be real proactive. Eric, who works for me, does a very good job of that, and he loves doing stuff like that. I can't stand it, but he loves it, and we try to be real proactive and put our stuff out there on Facebook because, to be quite honest, we have a really nice website that I don't update nearly often enough, hardly ever, and it cost me a bunch of money to build, and it's very nice, but the power of social media is huge, and you guys should be the first to know that. I mean, obviously you do. So we try to do a lot of stuff on social media because people like to see what's going on. And to be quite honest with you, our clients, we have clients anywhere from California to North Carolina and every state in between here. And we'd like to put their dogs on there. And people enjoy seeing their dogs on Facebook because they don't get to come out, and see them all the time, because they're so far away.
All right, so kind of changing subject here a little bit. We talked a little bit about your hunting. You get out there for the ducks and geese in spite of your busy schedule. So go ahead, tell us how your hunting is kind of during the season.
Well, we live out here in western Nebraska, and everybody has been in Nebraska have seen the Platte River. Well, the Platte River, they meet, the South Platte and North Platte, they meet just east of North Platte, Nebraska, and that turns into the Platte River. And I live on the North Platte River, and it's about a mile from my house, and it's a mecca. It is absolutely insane, the numbers of birds here. And the beauty about where we live is there's so many warm water sloughs and creeks and tributaries that come into it where I live that it doesn't freeze. Now the Platte River will lock up. East of us about 10 miles will even freeze a little bit. But we basically slush up here when it gets real, real cold. But it doesn't last very long. And the birds never leave. As long as there's not a foot of snow on the ground, which we don't get a lot of snow anyway, but as long as the food source isn't covered, they don't go anywhere. They just hunker down. And it's a very unique part of the country because when they leave Canada or the Dakotas or Montana and their waters froze up, the first open water they get to is the Platte River. And they make it their home, and there's a monster food. There's corn everywhere, and they don't really leave. It's really hard to explain. And the kind of hunting I do, I prefer to do. I'm a duck guy. I love shooting ducks. I'm a river guy, and I love the river. You'll find me on the river almost every day. I hunt 60, 70 days a year of a 90-day season, which is a lot. I don't even start hunting until probably middle of November.
Awesome.
And I hunt almost every day until then. And I'm pretty serious about my duck hunting. And the river to me is the place to go. And it's funny because the river, you run traffic. All you're doing is racing. You're running traffic on the river. That river is like a highway. They just fly up and down the river. And if you've got the best blind, the best decoy spread, and you're a good caller, a lot of times you can really you can get them. A lot of our hunting depends on our weather. When the wind blows, we do really well. Just like everybody else, you go down to Arkansas or whatever. They like the bluebird days, calm. They shoot them in the timber. That's terrible for us. That's not. We're gonna have a little bit of wind, and then we can get them pretty good. But we hunt on the river. A dog is a must on the river. You've got to have a dog on the river because there's lots of cripples, and we take a dog with us every time we go. Usually we take two, because if you get a group of guys and you drop 10 mallards in the river, that's a cluster. Let me tell you, because that thing's flowing pretty good. And there's some hazards too. It can be pretty dangerous. A lot of downed trees, that sort of thing. But I'm a river guy, so we hunt the river, and it's a very unique experience. I'm going to tell you that for sure.
So that kind of brings up a question that I have about kind of dog techniques when hunting the river. So I know kind of traditionally on, like, let's say a pond, you shoot the bird, you want them to go straight out to the bird and come straight back. But with river current and all that kind of stuff, it kind of plays out a little bit different. And I got a buddy whose dog will go and, I mean, this is definitely probably not the right way, but he'll go out to the bird and just go to the bank and then drop that bird and go back out, kind of deal. And I guess obviously with the current, your dog can't just swim straight back to you if they're going upstream. So how do you kind of work that in to your hunting style?
As a dog trainer, that makes me cringe. Drop the bird. And that makes sense. My OCD starts kicking in. But the beauty about the North Platte River is it's really pretty shallow. I mean, it can be ankle deep all the way out to chest deep, but most of the time it's about ankle to knee deep. And a lot of dogs can run in the river. But how we handle the river is, you got to understand something. All of our hunting dogs are all test and trial dogs. So when we hunt our dogs, there's specific rules. And we keep those rules very high and those standards very high. So when hunting season's over, we don't have to have, a lot of rebuilding, a lot of fixing. Because we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours, building these dogs. So the biggest thing about the river is I don't like the dogs to run the bank. I won't even let them run the bank. They have to get in the river where I tell them to and angle across. Now, if the bird's too far down there and they got to go down the bank, we'll run with the dog. Because to hunt the North Platte River, you can't weigh 300 pounds and not move. It just doesn't work. You got to get out, and there's a lot of times I'll be a quarter mile down the river picking up birds because they're cripples or they're super hard to catch. So what we'll do is we'll get out with the dog, the blind, and we'll run down the riverbank. And if we're hunting with two guys and we drop multiple birds, one guy will stay by the blind and pick up the ones out in front of the blind that are relatively easy. But there's always seems to be a cripple or a sailor or something. And then so one person will get out with their dog and run down the bank and catch that bird. And if it's alive still, we'll sluice it on the water because it's almost impossible to catch a cripple in the river. And we'll sluice it on the water, and then the dog will jump straight in the water right there and then come back to us right there. They won't be running down the bank on their own, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're taking that cheating part of that water away from them. And I'll be quite honest with you, you need to be with them anyway, because the river is not for the faint of heart when it comes to a dog. And if they go around the corner or a bend or something, you don't know what they're going to get into. So you need to have your eyes on that dog at all times for safety, honestly. And so we don't let the dogs go out of sight and cheat the bank and run down the bank. And and it's funny because we teach the dogs to come straight back to us as well, like in the water. So they have to come straight back to us. Well, and like you said, they can't come back to you because of the current. So what we'll do is we'll blow the whistle, we'll make them stop, and we'll cast them to the bank. And then we let them get on the bank and then run back to us. But okay, that's our decision to put them on the bank.
Gotcha.
Not theirs.
Okay. That makes sense.
I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
actually,
then it saves that training aspect. It saves that de-cheating training aspect that you've done with those dogs.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had a similar situation to that last year, kind of for the first time with my dog. We're hunting a swifter part of the river, just due to freeze up and all that kind of stuff. And he ended up with a honker in his mouth trying to swim upstream towards me. And he did that for about 10, 15 seconds until he realized that he's not going to make it that way. Then he cut over to the bank. So definitely good to hear kind of your perspective on how to.
And I know a lot of dogs up here that hunt, and you'll shoot. And I'll be quite honest with you, if that's all you're after for is a dog to go get your birds and as quickly as possible and efficiently as possible, I have zero problems with it. But they'll get out and they'll just run straight down the bank and start jumping in and picking up birds, and then the guy will meet them down there. But the dog won't angle in the water like it's supposed to, or they'll just run down the bank and jump in. For us as a dog trainer and what we do, I can't allow that to happen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So we keep a real high standard, but we get out, we go running down the bank, and just for safety, for one, safety, and for two, we want to keep that standard and let that and be as fair to that dog as we possibly can. Because if you allow that to happen, the cheating in the banks, the running down the banks, and all those sort of things, then that's your fault, and that dog is going to pay the price. when you go back to the spring after hunting season and start de-cheating that dog and fixing all those problems. Where you could have, as a you guy that has a hunt test dog or wants to run trials or tests, you could have stopped a lot of that. But people are too lazy to get out and run down the bank. But we run down the bank. That's why we don't wear neoprene waders. You won't catch me in neoprene waders. I'll fall over and die. I wear the banded waders, and I'll tell you what, that's a savior. Those neoprene waders. We do a lot of running up and down the bank, and all of our blinds are heated. You could literally sit in our blind in blue jeans and t-shirts in the middle of January. So, yeah.
Well, Jordan and I are just switching over to the banded 2.0s this season, so we're just. Jordan, you wore neoprene last year, didn't you?
I've done both. Yeah.
It's my first set of breathable. I'm pumped.
Yeah, and it's way better.
The black labels.
Nice.
The banded black labels are where it's at. They're the real deal. That's all I wear. It's like wearing muck boots and bibs. I wear them in the wall. I wear them in Walmart. I'll go in the grocery store. I mean, I ain't kidding you. My wife's like, "You're going?" I'm like, "Yep." We put our, the farthest I have to drive to go hunting is 15 minutes. That's my farthest drive.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, literally,
Shut up.
that's my farthest drive. And it's like, I gotta drive all the way over there, So I put my waders on at the house, and I just get in my truck and take off. Everybody that works for me and or hunts with me, my kids, my wife, Eric, everybody that works for me, we all meet in the kennel in the morning, and air the dogs and do what we need to do, and then we all meet at the kennel in the morning, which is right by my house, and everybody's got a locker in there. And we put our waders on there, and we get in trucks, and we just take off.
Are you guys
15-minute drive?
Are you guys accepting applications?
Sure. The pay is really low, and the hours are super long, so you'd probably love it.
But the hunting's awesome. There's the bonus.
Yeah, the hunting can be good. It's just like anywhere else. So you'll have your slow times, and you'll have your good times, but. It's so funny. I'm really good friends with a guy named Chris Aiken in Arkansas. We're like best friends, and he's got great hunting in Arkansas down there. He hunts up timber, and he's real big into it. He's a dog trainer like I am. We're real good, but we're hanging out all the time. And I hunt the North Platte River, and we keep talking to each other like, "Hey man, you need to come hunting down here with me." And he's like, "Man, you need to come hunting with me," but you almost can't pry me away from the river.
Yeah.
And you can't pry him away from the timber. But we love to duck hunt, but we love to duck hunt how we duck hunt.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's just, it gets in your blood. And I've been invited all over the country to go duck hunt with people because I have a lot of contacts, with training dogs and clients and, Louisiana and Arkansas. And I'm like, man, I'd love to, but I know we're going to get a new push of birds in like 36 hours, and there is no way I'm leaving here. There is no way I ain't going to do it because when you get a push of birds in North Platte River, there is nothing like it. It is unbelievable. But, I'm just stuck to the river, and it's funny how you fall into that groove of what you really like to do. And as I get older, I don't need to go shoot 500 mallards. I don't need to do that. I want to be with who I want to be and be comfortable and enjoy the actual experience instead of, everybody wants to pile the birds up. Man, don't get me wrong, I like to pull the trigger and pile the birds up, but that's not what it's about to me.
Yeah, it's that 5 stages of hunting chart.
Yeah. And I don't know what stage I'm in, but I'm not into the I'm mad at them stage anymore. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
You're like a stage 6.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I shoot a 28 gauge on North Platte River.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to get them right in your face, or a 20 is the biggest I'll ever shoot. And it's funny is people that hunt with me and my wife and a bunch of people, they're like, I get a 12 gauge, and it's so funny. Most of my friends all shoot 20s now. And even if shooting geese, like we'll be in I won't go goose hunting, but if they're out shooting geese, they're shooting 20 gauges. We shoot.
Jordan's a 20 gauge guy too.
I love 20 gauges. Man.
Yeah.
I love my M2.
I've nicknamed my 20 gauge. It's like a 1970s A5 that I got from my grandpa, and it's one of the Magnum ones, so you can chamber 3-inch shells through it. But I've nicknamed it the Goose Slayer because it's just I smack geese with it like crazy.
I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. I can't tell you how many limits of geese I shot last year with my 28 gauge, number 6s.
Wow.
Because I'll shoot them like when we put them on when we hunt the river. We do put if some other people go with us, we put a few goose decoys out because there's so many around. They're everywhere. But if it's just me and my wife, I'm not putting a goose decoy out. But she likes to shoot them, but I'm like, I'm not shooting these things. But if we put, it's so funny. They come right in, and you shoot them with a 28 gauge. People cannot believe you're doing it. But if you put it on them, you put it on them. That's the beauty of it. Anybody can kill anyone with a 12 gauge. But I guess that stems from me being a muzzleloader guy and stuff like that when I was shooting deer.
Awesome. All right, let's go over and talk about hunt tests and kind of to lead it off. We had a listener question. It was known that you're coming on the podcast with us tonight. So B. Taylor wanted us to ask you how you prepare for the HRC Grands.
I get that question a lot. And we're actually preparing for the Grand right now. The Grand starts on September 9th, I believe. And if you guys don't know what the Grand is, which I don't think you really do, it's and no disrespect to the Master National, because I run that event as well. The Grand is the hardest hunt test in the world. It has got a pass rate of anywhere from 10 to 20%, and there's 600 dogs that enter, so you can do the math on that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just found out today, my wife doesn't even know this, but I just found out today that our kennel is running the most dogs in the Grand of any facility in the country this year. We're running 19, and our facility is running the most dogs in the Master National of any facility in the country. We're running 27.
Wow.
So our little kennel in western Nebraska, out in the middle of nowhere, is running the most dogs in both of those national events, more than anybody in the country. But and we're getting ready to run the Grand here in a couple weeks. The biggest thing about the Grand and how to prepare for the Grand is you can't prepare for the Grand 2 weeks before the Grand. Preparation for the Grand is every day, all year long. It's the hardest hunt test in the world. It's very difficult to pass. And in a 19-year career, I've made 36 Grand champions. So, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it kind of is in the grand scheme of things, But you can't prepare for the Grand in 2 weeks or even a week, because what you end up doing is you put too much mental stress on your dog, because I'm going to the Grand, I'm going to do this, and you start training that dog like it's not used to being trained. And it really starts mentally getting worn out, and you take the fire out of the dog, you take the want to out of the dog, because it's not used to doing that. It's not used to, I'm not a concrete layer. And it's just like that. If you made me go pour concrete and put on shingles, I would die, because that's not what I'm used to. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with a dog. If you are trying to over prepare for the Grand, the dog isn't used to working that hard, mentally and or physically. And you're going to go into an animal that's not ready, because you think it's ready, but you've really crippled that animal. You have to keep the prepare for the Grand is you have to keep a very high standard all the time, because then that really high standard becomes second nature to that dog, and you're prepared for the Grand whenever it starts. You're not trying to cram in preparation 2 weeks before or even a month before. You just got to do a little bit of tweaking, and you're ready to go, because that dog understands what a really high standard is. And once it understands that high standard, it'll keep that standard, and it won't be overly stressed out mentally. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just can't cram it in like that. It doesn't work. You just got to keep a real high standard all the time. And what we do, what we do a lot of. Prepping for the Grand and stuff like that, we always keep a very high standard when it comes to line manners, but we are extra diligent preparing for the Grand when it comes to line manners. We really walk to the bucket really nice, and the dog has to walk to the bucket really nice, and has to do everything right. And I will tell you, we actually do kind of doing that a little bit harder and a little more strict than we do every single day. But we keep a very high standard no matter what. The biggest thing too about like the mark, he probably want to know about marks and blinds. Like the marks, we run a long mark, a medium mark, and a short mark. So we have every aspect of marking going on. You've got a short bird for a check down bird. You got a long punch bird. You got a medium range bird. You can't throw them all at 150 yards. You can't throw them all at 40 yards. You might have one at 40, one at 90, and one at 180. You've got to, all your marks have to be different lengths, and put them in places they kind of really don't want to go. Put them in some cover, make them kind of hard to get to, that sort of thing, if that makes sense at all. And then the blinds, the biggest thing about the blind retrieves at the Grand is you got to have very, very good control. You got to have a good initial line. Your dog has to stop really well, so your dog needs to stop to the whistle quickly and take all your casts. And the biggest thing about the Grand blinds, if I was to tell anybody how to prepare for a Grand blind, is make the last 20 yards difficult to finish. Put it someplace a dog does not want to go, but it has to get in there and it has to listen. You have to be able to handle that dog in the last 20 yards to finish that blind. If that's where most people will lose their dogs, at the very end of a blind at the Grand, because they're very good at bird placement and putting blinds where dogs don't want to go.
So how many of your 19 do you think have a legitimate chance at passing?
19.
Really?
Yeah. Or they wouldn't be going.
Yeah.
Of those 19, 2 of them are Grand Hunter Retriever champions already. A dog named Jet that I own has passed the Grand 7 times.
Wow.
Another dog named Reese that Delbert Smith from Colorado owns. It's a very, very nice dog. She's a Grand champion. She's passed it twice. Other than that, I have 5 other ones that are going that need 1 pass. Ammo, Hope, Ticket, Chloe, and Shaker. They need to pass it one more time, and they'll become Grand Hunter Retriever champions. So there's 5 of those. So hopefully Flatlander Kennels can break the 40 dog, 40 grand dog mark. That would be spectacular. I never thought in a million years I'd have 40 grand dogs.
Awesome.
I remember my first hunt test I ever went to was a HRC finish test. I went to watch, and I watched this dog run a 100-yard blind retrieve in the water. I thought it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I'm like, how am I going to get a dog to do that? It probably had 15 whistles. It wasn't very good at all, but I thought it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. And to be where we're at today is really, we sit back a lot and think about, well, how did we do this, But no, of the 19 dogs, I think they all got a legitimate chance. We are taking some very young dogs. It'll be their first Grand experience. And the Grand is not built for a young dog. It's kind of more of an experienced, savvy type dog, but you'll occasionally get the 2-year-old that passes that thing. But that doesn't happen very often. But of the 19 dogs, I think all 19 are legitimately have a shot for sure. I think 15 of them have an extremely good shot of passing, and I think there's 4 of them that have a really good shot if everything goes according to plan. The biggest thing about the Grand, it's not that you need any good luck, is you can't have any bad luck. And if you have bad luck, hopefully it's on a dog that kind of can overcome that. When I say bad luck, maybe you run when the lighting's really, really bad, or the wind's changed, or something like that, where the young dogs aren't quite experienced enough to overcome that bad luck. And it's funny, in our flight, so I'm running most dogs in the Grand of any kennel in the country. In our flight, which I'm either going to be a hero or a zero, but you know what? That's who's ready to go, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm not really worried about my reputation. Unless I pass a whole bunch of them, that'll be good. If I don't, I don't. But that's my job. But I'm the first dog to run in the flight, which is the kiss of death. And I'm the last dog to run in the flight, which is the kiss of death. So I'll be running in every weather situation and that you can possibly think of. I'm going to be in it. So.
Now, I know you had it listed on your Facebook page, but remind me with Georgie's parents, Flash and Islay. Am I saying that name correctly? Isla. Sorry, I always butcher that.
It's
Where are they in their development?
Okay, Flash he's going to run the fall Grand in 2 weeks. He's going to run the Grand for the very first time in his career. He's owned by Justin Hins from Lincoln Creek Labs out there in York, Nebraska. He's 4 years old. He's an HRCH. He's a hunting retriever champion. He's a master hunter. He's passed the Master National once. He's 1-for-1 in the Master National, and he's QA2. He's qualified LH2, which is a field trial title. He is one of my, I don't want to say for sure's, but he is one of my picks to actually. He's one of my, I call him, he's one of my big guns. Mm-hmm. It's like I said, he's the first time to run the Grand, but he is a phenomenal animal. This dog is unbelievable. He is so talented. He might be the fastest dog I've ever seen in my entire life. It's incredible how fast he is. But he's not. But sometimes you get them really, really fast dogs that they don't think. He still thinks as he's doing it, which is the beauty of Flash. He's got a very good chance of passing this Grand. He'll be running the Master National as well. Got a very good chance of passing the Master National. He's probably passed 90%, 95% of all the tests he's ever ran in his career. So he's a very consistent dog. But like I said, you never know. He could run in really bad lighting. You just never know. There's lots of stuff that there's a lot of things that go into the Grand and not passing the Grand or passing the Grand that you have no control over. And there's nothing you can do about it. I have clients like, well, I thought you said he was ready. Like, he was ready. He ran dog 1, the sun was barely up, and the dew was on the ground, and there's no scent on the ground. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's no wind. There's nothing to help that dog. And so it just all depends on where you run. He's got a great shot, man. He's got a great shot.
Now, when they pass the Grand, does the price of their pups just automatically shoot up? Is that how it works?
Usually, if they pass the Grand, the people who have bought those puppies owe me $100 per pass. No, I'm kidding. Usually, when they start getting Grand titles and stuff, their stud fee goes up to breed to. So when Flash there's no doubt in my mind he'll get it eventually. I don't know when it'll happen. But when he becomes a Grand Hunter Retriever champion, Master Hunter, Master National Hunter in the Hall of Fame and a QA2, his stud fee goes up. He's just more desirable of a dog. You know what I mean? It's just like a quarterback winning Super Bowls. And, you start winning Super Bowls, you get paid more.
Yeah.
And that's just how it works. And then, Isla. Isla is a wonderful animal. She's one of my personal dogs. I don't know if I told you the story about Isla, but Isla and also a dog named Barley, who is also a Grand Hunter Retriever champion. They're owned by a very, very nice lady. Her name is Faith Rothwell from Texas. And we own Isla now, and we own Barley. She used to own both of these dogs. Well, Faith was from Benton, Texas. Super good, the nicest lady ever. Loved her dogs. She was never married, and she never had any kids. Well, she came down with cancer that's about a year and a half ago now, I guess. And when a very aggressive form of cancer. Well, when she passed away, she willed the dogs to me because we just got along really well, and we knew we would take care of her dogs. So when she did that, I promised her that Isla and Barley would run the Grands and the Master National until they couldn't do it anymore, because that was always her dream, is to own a Master National Hunter and a Grand Hunter Retriever champion. Well, Isla she's an HRCH, she's a Master Hunter, and she's got 1 Master National pass, so she's got a plate, and she's been to the Grand is 5 series, and she's been to the 4th series twice. And I just can't quite get her over that hump yet, but she's right there. She's banging on the door of passing this thing.
Now, how old is she?
She's actually 7.
7.
Yeah, she started her career with us kind of late, but she's actually 7. And then Barley, her other dog that she owned, he actually is a Grand Hunting Retriever champion now. He's a Master Hunter, and he's passed the Master National. So she'd be super, and I don't even consider them my dogs, man. They're Faith's dogs. I'm just taking care of them.
That probably means a lot to you to get him to that point.
It does. When Barley got his grand title last fall, I'm not a real emotional guy, but there was definitely tears, and
That's awesome.
And it's a big deal for me. And Isla, she is so talented, man. I hope she gets her grand title, and she's one of my big guns that I've got going into it. She's so consistent. She is so consistent. It's crazy. She's got a great shot. She's got a great shot at it. But like I said, she's 7 years old, so we need to kind of get this deal done on her.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely some cool insight on that.
Yeah.
So you think, Elliot, this is a good time to jump to the lightning round?
Yep.
All right. So, lightning round, quick questions and quick answers, and helps us get to know a little bit more about you as a duck hunter.
Oh boy, lightning round. Lightning round of duck.
All right. What kind of gun do you shoot?
Depends. I shoot a Benelli M2 or I shoot a Benelli Ultra Light 28 gauge.
And what's your dream gun?
Ooh, my dream gun? Parker side by side, a real one.
And what type of ammo do you shoot for your duck hunting?
And I'm easy squeezy. I buy Kent Fast Steel, and that's all I shoot. If I can find, I usually shoot a Federal in my 28 gauge because it's hard to find that. But I shoot Kent Fast Steel number 4s, 3-inch number 4s, and 3-inch number 2s out of my 20.
All right. And I think the audience is going to have a little bit of a hint to this one, but do you like to shoot ducks or geese more?
Ducks, zero doubt.
And what is your, well, again, you've kind of answered some of these through the podcast, but what is your favorite terrain to hunt?
North Platte River is North Platte River or field mallards in a cornfield. I love that.
Awesome. So in your field, are you A-frame or a layout blind hunter?
I'm in a layout blind. Yep.
And what is your choke tube of choice?
Man, it's funny you ask that. We used to be sponsored by Pattern Master, which makes a great choke, but I literally shoot a modified. Whatever comes in the gun, I shoot a modified. I shoot whatever factory choke they give me. It's always a modified, unless it's early season and I'm shooting 3-inch 6s. I'll shoot it out of an IC.
See, Elliot, he shoots a extra tight full choke on almost everything.
I do not.
That's because he must not be able to get him close enough.
Yeah,
See, I'm so anti-full choke. And I don't know if you've heard this, but there's a running narrative that we're hearing all the time that's starting to catch fire with people that full chokes are better in close because either you kill them or miss them. And I cannot tell you how many times we've heard that. I just want to... Come on.
I'm telling you, my favorite, when I shot a 12 gauge, my favorite duck load in the world was 3-inch 6s out of an IC choke.
Yep.
A lot of BBs. But no, I shoot 3-inch 4s or 3-inch 2s. A lot of times I shoot 2s because I don't usually shoot into the first volley. I'm more of a backup shooter to everybody else. So I'll shoot 3-inch 2s a lot.
And then talking about your spread a little bit, are you big spread or little spread?
Big. Usually a really big spread. We'll run 15 to 20 dozen duck decoys, a mixture of full bodies and floaters.
Did you say 15 to 20
That's a
dozen?
lot.
Yeah.
That's beyond big.
Well, you gotta understand, if you're hunting that North Platte River, it's a monster travel way, and we run really good decoys, Avery greenhead gear decoys. They're the best. But we run a big spread because you've got to attract. We'll decoy, and I'm not even exaggerating, 300 mallards at a time.
Wow.
So if you're doing that and you're doing it at 10 or 15 yards, you've got to have a spread big enough to attract them and so they can see you. They're flying around a lot, so you've got to have a spread that they're going to be interested in.
So where can I drop my application off again? I'm not much of a dog trainer, but I can pick up the poop.
Yeah. You know what? World needs ditch diggers too, brother.
And
There's a lot of we feed 30,000 pounds of dog food a year, so there's plenty of poop to be picked up.
yeah, I bet 75 dogs worth of poop. I can hardly keep up with one.
Yeah, I understand that.
And so, do you guys use Mojos, or what type of motion do you use, if any?
I'm a big Mojo guy. I like Lucky Ducks; they're my favorite. We use Lucky Ducks. I'm a big spinner guy. I really believe in them. Now they're all on remotes. I will tell you that because geese hate them. So if geese do actually want to come in, I shut them off. And then sometimes later in the season, they'll get really squirrely. The ducks will. So sometimes you turn them off, sometimes you turn them on. But I'll usually typically run anywhere from 2 to 5 of them. But
Wow.
Typically 2, I guess.
Nice. That's definitely a wild spread you guys got going on there.
Yeah.
Well,
20 dozen floaters and
It's-
full bodies and
it's
5 Mojos.
It looks beautiful, man.
I bet,
And when we show up, if it's just me and my wife hunting, we won't put out that many because we're just in it for having fun and spending some time together and shooting some birds. It's not about shooting, big numbers, and we'll just put out a few dozen and see what happens. Because to be quite honest with you, I don't want to pick up 20 dozen by myself.
Yeah.
And she sits at the bank in her waders, and if the water goes above her ankles, she's out. But she will get across like to an island or something. But she'll meet me at the bank, and I'll handle her, and I use the rig 'em rights, and I give a dozen on each one, and she'll lift them up, and we pick them up every day. They go in the blind every day. We never leave them out, and I'll give them to her, and she'll go up the bank with them and put them in the blinds, and she helps a lot. Don't get me wrong, I'm just giving her crap, but I'm going to tell you though, that I'm serious about that. That water goes over her ankle, she's done. But she does wear her waders.
When we were up there, we were really impressed with your wife. She's just so hospitable, and my wife hit it off with her right away. So, and you got a good one there. She seems really cool.
I got a great wife. I don't know why she puts up with me because I'm not the easiest guy in the world to get along with because we kind of do what we do. But I'm gonna tell you, don't let her fool you. She wants to go hunt just about as bad as I do. And I'll be sitting around. I'm like, man, I don't want to go today. And she's like, let's go. Get up. We're going. I'm like, fine. And we'll go and we'll hang out. And some of the best duck hunts I've ever seen in my life, it was just me and her sitting in the blind. We go every Christmas. That's one of our main deal. Every Christmas morning we go hunting, and just her and I, and we go get in a blind. And if we have family in, they get to go with us. And I'm sorry if you have little kids, but Santa doesn't come until we get home from duck hunting. That's just how it is. Every Christmas morning we go, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So
Awesome. That sounds like
You are
a
living
great
the
way
dream.
to spend Christmas.
Well, we're trying to live the dream up here. It's not always cupcakes and rainbows, but there could be worse things.
And last question we got on the lightning round: face paint, face mask, or nothing at all?
Nothing. I don't do face paint. Like, first, I hate that crap. And then you got to wash it off. And I'm not Willie on Duck Dynasty. I'm not putting it on. And a face mask is hard to call on. And every time I put a face mask on, I try to turn my head, and it never really moves with me. And it gets all crooked. And I'm a super anal guy about it, and it drives me nuts. But how we hunt is we hunt in high back, low front blinds that are in the ground. They're like a pit. And you literally can sit there and you can wear white almost. Everything's covered up. And you don't have to have your face painted or anything like that. I don't like you sticking your face out, so they can see it. But the way our blinds are set up, very easy to see the birds. Very easy to pick them out when they're coming in. And you're not flipping lids or anything like that. We use a bundle system, which works fantastic. So you don't need to be face painted up or face masked up. I guess if you're doing layout blinds, you probably could do a face mask, but man, I'm not putting that greasy ass face paint on me. I got a gray beard, kind of like Elliot does a little bit, so I'd have to put grease and formula in my beard to find my face paint.
Getting grayer by the moment.
It's horrible, man. I wasn't like this until I started training dogs.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. We could probably go on for hours. Even just asking Elliot's and I's personal dog questions, but we'll spare you the stress for tonight.
Oh, I'm sure I'll get a text tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I've got Chris on speed dial, so
Yeah,
it's a good resource to have. Let me
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you.
for sure, for sure.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and spreading your knowledge with us and hearing all your awesome stories about growing up in the country in
I'll tell you, that was
Nebraska.
something else. That
Yeah.
was something else.
So go ahead and let people know where they can find you and all your stuff getting going on the internet.
Okay, well, if you'd like to see us on the internet, my website is www.flatlanderkennels.com. Our Facebook page is Flatlander Kennels Inc. Inc. We do a lot of stuff on our Facebook page. I highly recommend everybody jumping on there. We're going to start doing some major giveaways coming up here pretty soon. We've got some stuff, from our friends at Deerskin down there in Texas and Dog Box. We got some sport dog stuff. We got some great giveaways coming. If you'd like to contact me personally, CJ, like Chris Jobman, CJ at flatlanderkennels.com is my email. We'd love to help you guys out, talk dogs. If anybody wants looking for a puppy, we've actually got where Ellie got his puppy at, Georgie. We got a couple of Georgie brothers for sale right now that are doing fantastic, retrieving birds and getting in the water. They're unbelievable puppies, man. They're unbelievable. But no, just email me, get on my Facebook page, get on our website. We'd love to talk to you, love to help you out any way, shape, or form. Train your dog for you if you'd like. If we don't have puppies, I train a lot of puppies for really good breeders. I can put you in touch with a very, very nice puppy down the road. That way you can kind of sift through the puppy world, and we can help you find one of them.
Awesome. Sounds great. And thanks again for coming on. All right, guys, this is all we got. It's a wrap for tonight. I'm Jordan from Ducks Gun Chronicles, Elliot from Freelance Duck Hunting, and Chris from Flatlander Kennels, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
See you guys. Thank you.